Welcome back to the garden,
Hello.
and welcome to garden therapy. Change is in the air.
To change.
In just a few weeks, we'll be going from summer to fall. It will happen faster than we know it. And from the change from one season to another brought me to the topic that I wanted to discuss this week, and that was change for some reason can be scary for people. Because it often involves stepping into the unknown, which can trigger feelings of uncertainty, discomfort, loss of control.
It's out of control.
The control video, I'll link it right up here. It's a pretty good watch. Human brains are wired to seek stability and familiarity. So when faced with change, there's a natural resistance to that. I'm definitely guilty of it myself. Additionally, change might challenge existing routines, beliefs, or ways of doing things, leading to a fear of failure or the need to have to adapt. Not all change is inherently negative. Some can lead to growth, new opportunities, and of course, positive outcomes. And all this stuff that we're talking about happens in the garden all the time. Daily change occurs. One day, you see your fruit isn't quite ripe, and then the next day it is. One day you see everything looks great, the next day your plant's covered with aphids. You have to prune, you have to remove a plant. But change is constant in nature, it's constant in the garden as an extension of nature, although somewhat controlled by the gardener. So it's important to be able to overcome and adapt to those changes and everything that's coming at you. So that's the topic for today. Well, I have a lot of stuff I need to change in the garden right now. I have some cucumbers with some leaves that look kind of horrible that I need to prune off and take care of. In the other garden, I have those zucchini plants. Definitely need to come out. They've stopped producing, and it's time to pull that plant. And I think I'll put a couple seeds in the ground there and see if we can get a zucchini or two before the end of the season. I'm going to do that, and narrator Brian is going to talk a little bit more about change and let you know a little bit more what to expect from this episode. Thank you for watching this episode of Garden Therapy. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button for future episodes. In this video, we're going to delve into the fascinating connection between change in the garden and the profound impact it has on our lives. Nature's ever-changing ways can teach us valuable lessons about embracing change in our own journey. In a garden, change is constant. Seasons shift, plants grow and bloom, while others wither away. This constant transformation reminds us of life's fleetingness and the need to adapt. Just as a garden evolves, so do we. Gardens teach us to embrace change rather than resist it. Just like pruning is necessary for healthy growth, letting go of the old can pave the way for new opportunities in life. Embracing change allows us to flourish and experience personal growth. So with change, there are some positive things that come about it as well. And one of those things is starting a new round of seeds. Now that fall is here, although right now in the greater Sacramento area, we're going to be experiencing 100-degree temperatures, which is way too hot to plant out any fall vegetables. But it's a great time to start, because when the change happens, we want to have a good plan in place to move forward with that. And with that said, I had a chance to go to the Harvest Day Festival a couple weeks ago. I did mention that in the last video about mindful gardening, and did speak with some local personalities in the gardening industry here. One farmer, Fred Hoffman, as well as his sidekick, Debbie Flower, who's a retired horticultural professor from the Garden Basic podcast. And they spoke a little bit to me about change and how they look at it through the seasons and just daily changes in the garden. So I'm going to let you listen to those questions and answers with them. And while they do that, I'm going to prep my seed starting stuff, and we're going to start some seeds. Great. And so how do you embrace change in your gardening practices? Changing the seasons, and how does it relate to your personal life?
Well, I usually get a head start on everything. I'm always planning ahead. And actually now, even though we're talking about this in August, I've already started planting my cool season vegetables to get them off to a good start. If I'm doing it from seed, it takes time for them to get them up to a good size. And I'll start them off in the shade and then move them to sun as the sun becomes less intense come September, October. But yeah, you got to roll, like I say, you got to surf with Mother Nature.
Come talk to me.
My pleasure, Brian.
So, how do you embrace change in your garden practices? Change in the seasons and how it relates to your personal life?
Well, when you first said change, I was thinking about things like dying plants or plants growing in ways that I didn't expect, and I take it as a lesson. Always curious, always wanting to know what the next step is or what the plant's going to do, and so I might rue the loss of some things, but my life sort of revolves around plants. My house is full of houseplants, and I do all my garden design from windows because it's important to me to look out and see the greenery, and I also do it for wildlife so that I can see the birds and the insects and enjoy them. It also drives what you do in the garden. You know, there are seasons where you're planting and seasons where you're pruning and seasons where you're just sitting and enjoying the view, harvesting. So all of that is change that I love it. It gives me life. It gives me a reason to go do things.
One of the things I really like that Farmer Fred and Debbie Flower said is, with the change, you just have to embrace it. It's going to happen. As Fred said, surf with Mother Nature. It's going to happen, whether it's in the garden or outside of the garden. The only constant in life is change. Have a plan in place. In this case, going from a spring, summer garden over to a fall garden is now in August, still in the heat of summer. We have to start thinking about the change that's going to happen in the weather and the seasons and be prepared to start our next generation of seeds. And part of that is to have a plan in place.
I have a plan
To make sure you can handle that change in an appropriate manner. So it's always a little sad changing seasons from summer growing and those nice warm vegetables like peppers and eggplant and tomatoes, everyone's favorite, and switching over to fall vegetables, which is really, for me, it's mostly leafy greens and your root vegetables like beets and carrots. The nice thing about going to the fall garden is it's very easy. It's a lot less maintenance. It's sort of autopilot. You just got to start your seeds and keep them succession planting to keep getting stuff. And where I am, I don't get any really hard freezes. And when I do, it's usually just for a day or two, and it's easy to protect the plants with row cover, sheets, whatever it takes to do that. And they just keep pumping out through the fall, winter, and early spring. So that part's really nice. But it is sad to pull out a pepper plant who probably has a few peppers left in it, or even a tomato plant. It's something that you sort of have to do.
Do it.
When you're approaching this change, because very quickly, it gets cold and the tomatoes and the peppers obviously aren't going to live through them out in the garden, or at least where I am. And going to these fall vegetables is really what it's going to take to move forward and keep the food and the gardening going. That's one of the positive things as far as starting seeds, starting the next generation of plants and doing it. So I'm going to be starting some seeds here. One of the things that I really discovered that makes it easy, because lettuce tends to be very small seeds, carrots tend to be very small seeds, and they're difficult to handle, etc. But I've discovered pelleted seeds, which I love. Little tiny seeds look like little tiny Tic Tacs, and it's very easy to put one in each cell. In this case, I usually put two, just in case one doesn't germinate, and have those seeds go out there. I'm gonna do a whole tray full of these, and I may even do 2 trays worth of some leafy greens and plant them out. And I'm sort of excited because this year, I inherited another green stalk. I'm going to fill that up with lettuce as well as my bed. So I'm going to have two areas to do that. Where my garden is, my main garden, which is over there, which is where most of my tomatoes and peppers are, it doesn't do well in the fall. It just doesn't get enough sun. It's perfect spring through October, and then the sun really starts to wane over there. But the bed over here where my salsa garden is sort of the best bed for lettuce, because that southern exposure gets the best sunlight throughout, and then I'll be able to move the green stalk into an area where it gets some good light as well, and I think we'll have quite a bit of success with that there. So at this point, I was going to take you through the seed starting process pretty much step by step, but it didn't feel very congruous with the theme of change. that this episode is about. Now, yes, we are changing from the warm season to the cool season vegetables, but the seed starting process didn't seem to fit for me. So what I am going to do is give you narrator Brian here for a little bit, and if you do want to give me some feedback in the comments below on whether or not you would like a seed starting video, I'd be more than happy to put something like that together for you. But in the meantime, there's me fast forwarding, going through the motions of setting up the seed starting. And I really do enjoy the seed starting. It helps again with the mindfulness. If you saw the mindful video, it keeps you in the present and focused on just what you're doing. And it's really a nice soothing activity for me. Without further ado, let's get back to change. Overcoming change can be a challenging process, but you don't need to be some kind of superhero.
What an idiot.
All it requires is the ability to adapt and positive mindset, a willingness to learn, and the ability to embrace uncertainty, which is difficult. It's important to focus on the opportunities that the change can bring rather than dwelling on the challenges that can potentially happen. Building a support network and practicing self-care can also aid in navigating through periods of change. The garden has a lot to teach us about life. It reminds us that even in the face of challenges, there's beauty in the resilience. We learn to adapt and grow and appreciate the journey, not just the destination. The garden is a powerful metaphor for life's constant changes. As we tend to our garden, we cultivate patience, resilience, and acceptance. Remember, change is inevitable.
I am inevitable.
No, dude, change is inevitable. And what do you do with my hair? That's better, but can we get back to the video and put everything back to normal again? But with an open heart and nurturing spirit, we can flourish in the garden of life. Thanks for watching, and please check out these videos if you haven't already, and don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Thanks.